Hello, and welcome to I Don't Want to Be a Piece of Shit. I'm your host, Carter Doherty, and I'm here with my guest today.
Aidan McCluskey.
And now we're going to start the podcast. So the podcast premise, I kind of told you when you asked yesterday.
Yeah.
I started it like the self-betterment journey, and it's like documenting it in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bring on people that have made a change that they liked, that they did, and then we talk about that thing.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like you did a lot of stuff that I feel like I'm doing currently. We've talked about that. We've talked about that a lot. So I guess we'll go back to in Vegas. I guess I don't know how to start your story.
Oh, okay.
What do you think the best starting point to go from would be to where you would go? That's where
the
change changed.
The change happened. Probably, yeah. The downhill was probably like after my first breakup because we were together for a while, and then after that, I just kind of stopped doing stand-up altogether and just started hanging out with my buddies a bunch and drinking.
Okay, so you were a stand-up comedian in Minneapolis at that time.
Yeah,
and then you went through a breakup and you quit doing
stand-up.
Like, were you doing any gigs, or was it miking at that time?
Mics, yeah.
So you were an open mic comic. You went through a breakup. You quit.
Yep. Yeah.
And then
immediately within like 8 or 9 months.
All right, within 8 or 9 months of starting, you decided you needed to quit stand-up comedy to lose yourself in booze.
Do that, get a degree.
Get a
degree. Yeah, in like paralegal. I went to tech college.
And then you decided were you drinking and paralegally at the same time?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and that's another. So you quit paralegally, and you were telling me because you didn't like the pressure.
Yeah, I didn't like the pressure of it, and then right when COVID hit, they didn't need like an in-office assistant anymore.
Okay.
So then they cut me immediately because I was like an intern. Mm-hmm. So then I started working at Walmart and Jimmy John's. So downshifted considerably.
All right, so you're heavily drinking.
Yeah.
You went from paralegal where you felt like you couldn't take the responsibilities. Do you think because of you had a low self-image because of your drinking and you felt like you couldn't handle responsibilities? Maybe not just because of your drinking, but in general having a low self-image is why you couldn't think you could take it on, or did you just not want that in general?
I think, I've never thought about it that deep. I think, honestly, what it was like, I was always unsure of I didn't trust myself to make big decisions or, like, to do things and be confident in my actions. I think because probably, like, where I grew up was, like, it was big about, like, you're being a man sort of a thing, like, and I don't know. My dad tried to teach me skills as far as like cutting wood and stuff like that, but they never like trusted me with like the big tasks. So I think I was always like somebody else bigger.
It's a little bit like
that.
Coddled, and so you therefore felt that and not even coddled is a little has a connotation, but
I think it was just like, well, he can't do that.
Yeah,
like,
you didn't feel that as if you were capable.
Yeah, it was like a big physicality thing.
And I guess to give context for the podcast, because I kind of talked about it as if we had explained it, you didn't want to be a paralegal because whenever you made a mistake, it had a huge impact on somebody's legal outcomes.
Right.
And that pressure.
Life. Yeah.
And so you felt that it should be handed to somebody more responsible to be able to handle something like that.
Yeah.
I feel that, like, I relate to that. Just like my ex, she was in medical school, and I like not her, but I just thought about how like I would like meet people that were like gonna become doctors, or like people that I went to high school with.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, they're gonna be a fucking doctor.
Yeah,
that person's gonna like have a person under an. It, like to me, it should be a fake person that's perfect.
Right, you don't want to know that.
The adult job should go to the adults. Nobody that's my age is an adult. We're all the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, but I think that's how everybody kind of thinks. Yeah. Like, even when you're 40, you're like, well, that's for the adults.
Yeah, that's for like the 60-year-olds.
Yeah, but I guess that's another thing about life is kind of just taking responsibility. Because when you think, like, because you talk about how you want to have kids and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The slightest mistake in that aspect could
Oh, yeah.
interrupt there. So that's just the same level of responsibility. So I feel like anything in life is just being able to take on that responsibility. Now, if you enjoy it, that's another thing.
Yeah, I think if you enjoy, I don't know if you
So
could enjoy
would you
it.
have ever enjoyed that paralegal responsibility?
Tough to say because I got out so early.
Mm.
I don't think I ever would have. Probably just because, like, I don't know if you feel this way, but like when you're navigating life, you're always like, am I doing the right thing in the back of your head? But then you see some other people navigate life and you're like, oh, they know exactly what they're doing. That should be somebody who's confident, like, knows.
That's like another thing about like just anxiety and why I've been trying to focus on mindfulness and being present so much, because if you are worried about if you're on the right path, you're never going to be on the right path. You always have to just be like, I'm content with now.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're always good with now, you're going to be on the right path no matter what, because then you're just going to not have hated any moment that you lived in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Now, like,
maybe about like success, are you doing the right things for your career? That's a whole another.
Or just like, I don't know, like having to make like real world things. Like, I don't know, like when I tried to go back to school because I freaked out for a while this is fast forwarding like a bunch, but when I lived back in Minneapolis, I was like doing stand up. That was like my thing. And then I kind of freaked out and I was like, every month I'm like barely getting by. I don't have a fallback plan. I should establish one. So like I went to school and when I was doing all the financial aid stuff, I didn't really have anyone to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So it was moments like that where it's like, or taxes. I'm always like, fuck, I don't know. I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
So I got to trust somebody.
Yeah, I need my mom.
Yeah, exactly. I need like a parent to help me or like a professional to help me. I think being content in the now, I'm there at this point.
Nice.
But as far as like those big decisions that I feel like could impact me, that's where like
you just can get in a thought loop where you can think of every outcome, and it makes it almost paralyzing to make the choice.
Yeah, and then you put it off and it makes it worse.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, if I would have just figured this out now, I wouldn't be stressing about whether or not I'm getting financial aid.
Yeah.
With these classes that I'm already enrolled in.
So I guess like going back to you quit your paralegal job, then you work at you work at Walmart and Jimmy John's.
Yep.
You're making your ham sandwiches for yourself all the time that the guy gave you guff for ordering.
Fucking dickhead.
And so you're boozing heavily. What choices do you make next in life?
Well, then I was just kind of like, I don't know. We were just kind of drinking a bunch, me and my buddies, and I was having a lot of fun. But then I was just kind of like, it just sort of hit me out where I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, man, is this I looked around the bar, because it's always people that, like, no one really leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like, generational that people hang out, live in the bar, and then get old.
Yeah.
And bring their kids to the bar. And I don't know why. I was just kind of looking around, and I was like, damn, is this kind of like it? My buddy was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know, just like...
It's the Midwest romance.
Yeah, I was like just getting, like working and getting drunk. And he was like, yeah. And then I kind of had like an existential... I was like, I got to do something else. So I moved to Vegas with my cousin. And it wasn't like I was like, I'm going to stop drinking. That wasn't the initial intention. I was just like, I want to see what else is out there, maybe through clear lens. But I wasn't around anyone, so I just kind of naturally stopped drinking.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So
what you got to Vegas, and so how did you got there? What moved you there? What was the inspiration to go there? Your cousin had a lead, or you had a lead?
pretty much just my cousin lived out there.
Okay,
He
your
was
cousin
just a
already
vet,
lived out
yeah.
there, and you were like, I have a good setup there if I go.
Yeah, I just was like, hey, what would you charge for rent?
What even like made it cross your mind that I need to go to Vegas? Why was that the inspiration? Just because your cousin was there?
Yeah, I think I would have moved anywhere, but I was like, my cousin's there, I know him, and Also, he's always like had his head on straight.
Okay, so
Yeah.
your cousin seems like a good inspiration to be
Yeah.
around. A good what's influence? That's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. So you knew your cousin was a good influence, and you were like, I'm gonna go be surrounded by somebody that I want to be like.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And then like, cause he always has been like chill.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had kind of similar upbringings with both of our dads.
That makes. I have like a lot of
But-
family members where I like have that kind of feeling towards.
Yeah. But it's just like, damn, dude, you like he really things just kind of roll off his back, and he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but my money's good. I'm doing all right. I like smoking weed and hanging out. And he's a really smart dude. He's got a lot of hobbies and shit. And I was
Okay,
just
what does
like-
he do for a living?
He's a vet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
Yeah. So you get there, and is he like you? I remember you were saying you got into like fitness and stuff there.
Yeah.
Is he like a fit guy? Your
Yeah.
cousin? So do you work out with him? Is that what gets you going?
Yeah.
See, I had the same thing. My uncle like worked out. So one summer, like
Yeah.
I lived in Cincinnati for a summer
Mhm.
between college, and like my uncle was a personal trainer and stuff, and so I just met up with him every day, and I got in like such good shape.
Yeah, because
back
it's
then.
like such a positive influence, and they're like, I think it's just because they're your family. They're really not judging
Mhm.
you, and they're like, "Oh, that's great." Like the encouragement feels real and not forced, and yeah, I got really into it with him.
And so like and also to just keep working out, you can't just party.
Right.
And also, you don't have the people around you to say, "Come on, let's go out."
Yeah.
So you're down in Vegas, and you're just working out all the time. You got a sales job.
Yeah.
How'd you find that? Just applying around on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed, it was like the only place that hired me, and it was like it was one of those like pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
type
What were you
things.
selling?
Cable and internet.
Cable and
Yeah.
internet. All right. Were you going cold calling or going door to door?
We were in Walmart's.
Oh,
We
okay.
had like a Direct TV and CenturyLink like tablecloth,
Mhm.
and then we would just stop people and be like, "Excuse me, who do you have for cable and internet?"
All right, I know this. I know
Yeah.
this. These people. So you did that. So what was your? So this felt like your grind time in life, right? Where you're just kind of like every
Yeah.
day, like feeling like you're working out, living with your cousin, making money. Just like
Yeah.
it just kind of feels like you're in your grind set era at that point.
Honestly, yeah, but
So give me your day in the life at that point. You wake up at what about what time?
I would usually wake up at like
This is why we shouldn't have the door open. My bad.
oh, no, you're good. 6:30 or 7, and then
6:30
yeah,
or 7. All right.
Eat breakfast, go to the gym, then go to work or come home, shower, go to work. at
What time does
Walmart.
work start at Walmart?
Like 9 or 10, give
9
or take.
or 10, and you're off to sell cable.
Yep, and then I would do that for, I don't know, anywhere from like 6 to 8 hours. It kind of just depended on how well you were doing.
And like, what kind of workouts are you doing in the morning? Like at that early?
swimming?
Swimming. That's what
Yeah.
you were saying. So, and you were able to put on weight doing all the swimming and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
because I was eating an insane amount.
nice.
And my cousin was like, because he used to be skinny too,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Oh man," he's like, "I'll give you what I did." So he and I would eat like the same meals a lot of the
Nice.
time, and then
That's the best.
yeah, and like sometimes he would cook like a big meal, or I would cook a big meal, and we just like split it.
Okay.
So we would do that, and then otherwise I would just have. I was like keeping track of my calories. It really occupied a lot of my
Mhm.
mind.
I can relate to how that is currently a little bit.
Yeah, but it feels good. You feel really good.
Yeah.
though.
So you work a whole day selling cable. How much are you making at that time?
Man, it would really depend because like if you, it was kind of fucked up. If you sold just over commission, they would cut your base and give you the commission. So say you sold like one internet package, which would be like, I don't know, $300, which is just about what your base pay, just over. They would cut your base pay, and then you would make just $300.
Just $300. But like, do you remember on average what like your 2-week pay would have been if it was a salary job?
2 week, probably, I don't know, anywhere from like $800 to $1,200.
See, I feel what's funny is like I know that's like such a small amount, but when I make that much money consistently, I'm always like I'm fucking raking
doing
it.
all right. Yeah. It's like I can afford everything I need. Yeah.
And then were you having to pay rent with your cousin?
Yeah, I was giving him $700 a month.
Ooh,
Yeah.
That's not actually that crazy.
No.
Ooh.
And he was in a nice spot.
Okay.
In Vegas.
All right, so you sell, and then you're not doing any stand-up comedy in Vegas at that time. Okay, so then what was like your main time? I guess you have working out, work. What time would you get off work?
Usually like 5.
Usually 5,
like
and
9 to 5 or
9 to
so.
5 average.
Yeah.
Day, and then is it mostly like hanging with your cousin?
Yeah. Otherwise, he would be with his girlfriend. So. And, like, he smoked a ton of weed, so I smoked a ton of weed. So I would get home, smoke, eat, and then go to the gym.
Okay.
And then, like, lift. And then come home.
Oh, yeah, you were working out multiple times a day.
Yeah.
So you would swim in the morning.
Yeah.
Lift after work.
Yeah.
And then, just hang with your cousin or something.
Yeah.
Eat a big dinner, constantly eating throughout the day. And then that was every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, did you have any side subplots in your Vegas time, or was it full grind? Did you have any romances?
No romances, not at all. Like I was telling you, I had this thing for a while where like I just, for whatever reason, after my first breakup, I just like couldn't get hard, and I thought there was something wrong with me. So that was when I just gave up on like
so you gave up
dating and stuff, and I was like, I'm just gonna get my body right.
All right, wait, we didn't get to this. I don't know if you want this on podcasts.
What? I was just about to say
okay,
that.
yeah. So this is kind of what I'm getting into. So you quit. So how did you wean off drinking at this time, or were you just like I'm not quitting, but just there were no opportunities that arose, and then if opportunities arose, you maybe had a drink or two, or what was it?
Yeah, kind of. I would have like a drink.
A drink. Okay.
Otherwise, I would go out, and because it was legal, it was so much easier. Like if he did go out with his roommate, they wouldn't really drink, or I would smoke, and then I would be like, I'll get like a gin and tonic.
Okay.
But that's about as far as I would go with it.
All right. So there just was no inspiration to continue.
Yeah, they're not getting hammered, so.
But it wasn't like I'm cutting vices.
No.
And so then you also, because of the breakup, you felt like you needed a change.
Yep.
And so you went down to Vegas, but then you got to Vegas and you were working on yourself.
Yeah.
But you weren't like, I'm not having sex with women. You just didn't have the desire.
No, I kind of was like, I think there's something wrong. Because, like, I would try after the breakup, but then
you were, like, trying to meet up with ladies on Tinder.
And it would be successful, and then I would get to the point, and then I would just, like, not be able to get hard.
Did you feel the desire, like, for the romance? Like, take a lady out and, like, get to know her and then try to have, like, because that's the fun in and of itself, not just, like, okay, so you did, like,
I would, like, go out, and then I would always have fun then, but then I would get to the end, and we would, like, try to hook up, and then I couldn't, and then I would just be like, I would just feel really bad. And I did that like a few times, and that was before I moved to Vegas. So when I moved to Vegas, I was like, I think I'm just going to be done for a little while, because I tried to research it, and it was like, yeah, maybe you're just like, that's your body telling you you're not completely over the breakup.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so maybe I just got to give myself more time. But then it would ruminate, and I would be like, but what if you're never able to get hard again?
Well, that's anxiety.
Yeah, but at the time, I didn't know how to identify it. So then I was like, I need to find a setting where there's no stakes at all. Like, the person's not disappointed, they're not happy, you know what I mean? It's just like, so then I found these like massage parlors.
Yeah.
And the first one I went to, I was just like, I'm going to try this and see, because I'm like, okay, if I do this in a controlled
How'd you hear about the massage parlors?
My cousin was just like, there's a bunch out here. Not that he'd ever
he brought it up in passing, and then you like were like, oh, really?
Yeah. And he would joke about it. He's like, that's probably one, because there's so many in Vegas.
Yeah. I know what you're like, somebody bringing up something as a joke, like, hey, ever hear about this? And you're like, wait, For fucking real?
Really? You're telling me that?
Like they're like, dude, do you know that they do Molly at those parties? Like I remember I had friends that like would. I'm like, wait, what parties? Just so I don't go to those parties by accident.
Crazy. Who's doing that?
So
What's
what
their name?
massage parlor? So I don't ever go there. Okay, so
Yeah.
you went to the massage parlor that your cousin had mentioned in passing.
Yeah.
How'd you know? Because this is something I'm always very curious about. Where you're like, what is the subtleness of like trying to be like.
Oh, so after I figured it out, there's sort of like a good
What was the like
tell.
figure out though? Like, did somebody tell you, or did you look it up on the internet, or?
No, because there's like websites that claim to know where they are, but I'm like, I feel like if they're that public, then like they're on the radar of police. So
Very
I was
much
like, I'm just
so.
gonna find or try and find one on my own, and I just was coming home from the gym and I noticed there was one open and I was like, it's fucking like 11:30 at night. Why is this open? So I registered that and then went back and there was a doorbell and the door was locked. So I was like, oh, maybe it's not. So I rang the doorbell and then they look at you through a camera and then open the door. And I was like, this has got to be it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then...
And your heart's beating through your chest, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was just like, oh, man, I don't know what
So
to expect.
you just, on a whim, are like, massage parlors that wank you off are popular around here. There's a massage parlor open late at night. I'm going to buzz the door. Just on a whim. Not even, okay.
No, it was just like...
And you're so nervous. All right. They open the door. You go in.
I go in, then they tell you to undress. They leave, and they tell you, like, undress and put the towel over. So I was like, okay. So I undressed completely.
And are they, like, kind of rude?
No, they were actually really nice. They were a lot younger than I thought they were going to be, too.
Okay.
They were probably in their 30s or 40s.
All right. With the accents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Very thick accents.
Okay, I didn't know if this was like, you know how like girls do OnlyFans now, and they're like, I'm taking it in my hands.
Yeah. No, these women, it was...
No, this is a little bit seedy.
Yeah.
All right, so 30-year-olds with accents, nice to you, towel over you.
Yep, and then she comes back in and starts giving me a massage, and I was like, all right, I just got to feel this out. I don't really know if this is the place. I don't know if there's any tell. And then... she started rubbing, like, up, way far up my leg, and I was like, this has got to mean something. And then she was like, turn over. So I rolled over with the towel on still, and then she starts rubbing and then slides the towel. And then I was like, okay, this is... And then she kind of gives me the menu. And she was like...
Menu?
Yeah, she was like 40 for... And then did the motion, and she was like 60 for suck and 100 for boom boom. And I was like, I'll just do the suck, I guess.
Okay, 60 for the suck.
Yeah, so I do that. And then puts a condom on and just starts, and I was like, okay, but my dick is hard. So I was like, oh, nice, there isn't any. That was really my first
I'm
thought.
hard just hearing about it. That was a very, I'm going to be honest, this sounds like a nice service. This doesn't even really... Because to be honest, a lot of prostitution seems like really like, you know, banging a crack whore for.
Yeah, that's
but like,
what you
but
think.
like a lady giving you a massage and then just. Now I almost think like hand job. If it was just hand job, that should be a business everywhere.
I suppose it's
maybe
relaxing.
I feel as if head and the actual sex, that seems a little bit more.
That's extra, yeah.
But I do feel that like a happy ending is almost like that's just, you know, maintenance,
like an
changing the oil on a car.
Extension of the massage. That's like an extra layer of relaxation.
Because I don't know. This seems like a thing. I wouldn't feel embarrassed about myself doing that.
Just that extra relief. Yeah.
Well, like you know how like there's scenario where you're like I wouldn't get a prostitute. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But I feel like that just sounds like a nice time.
Yeah, and
although, how did you feel about yourself?
Well, initially when it started, I remember just my only thought really was like, oh, thank God there's nothing wrong.
Okay.
Like, my dick is
So,
working.
okay, it was more about you were just so scared that it was never going to work. So this was like, this is my last hurrah. If this doesn't work, there's no chance.
Yeah, this is like my controlled environment.
Could you do it on your own?
Yeah, I just didn't really try. The whole thing kind of shied me away from it because I was like, I still get hard on my own, but I don't want this like complex of like when another person is involved, then I can't perform.
Okay.
So
But you enjoyed the first experience.
yeah,
All right,
Yeah.
and you were like, "Oh, fuck yes, it works."
yeah.
And then how often after that do you go back? How long do you wait until you go back again?
It was a while. Yeah, because after that, I more or less was just like excited that it worked.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh, thank God. But then there hit a point where I still wasn't like trying to date.
Mm-hmm.
I did have the apps, but a lot of the apps are like my cousin explained. He's like, yeah, a lot of them are looking for like older, like rich dudes. And he's like, I wouldn't be like offended.
Yeah.
I was getting some matches and like talking to people, but I just didn't really feel that excited
Yeah.
about it. So I was
Well,
like,
yeah,
I'm
I
not
guess
gonna
Vegas is
pursue
just
it.
such a tough scene to even want to get out in,
Yeah,
dating wise.
and I was just like, that was a point where I was really content. Where I was like, I had a really good routine of like working out, going to work, working out, and then I would be so tired from the day I
That you
would
just
sleep.
felt complete.
Yeah, I would like smoke weed on the patio and then like chill and then go to bed.
All right, so your Vegas era, it lasted how long?
Like 7 or 8 months.
Oh, you were only there for 7 or 8 months?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was years.
No, I
Okay, so you were only there for 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
How many? You got cranked off every once in a while, barely drank.
Yep.
At the end, what made you leave Vegas?
My aunt was on hospice, and I had to go back and get a nose surgery because when I was drunk with a buddy, he like accidentally busted my nose. But it was right at the start of COVID, so they considered it like cosmetic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so then they scheduled it way out, so I had to fly back to get this surgery. And then in that time, my aunt was put on hospice.
Okay.
And she died very shortly after that, like while I was there. And all of my family had gotten together in a way that I hadn't seen in like a really long time. And then my cousin read me something that she had written to like prior to her being put on hospice, and there was a line in there that was like just like please don't be mad at me for the way I chose to live my life. And she was like really free spirited.
Your aunt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you had the same thoughts that I did, where it was like you wanted to live this certain way, but were worried about the perception of other people, but you lived this whole life feeling that way and then died. And I was like, I don't want to live that way. And I felt that way, went back to Vegas, found out that the job I had just like closed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
So you felt this new closeness to your family
Yeah.
in general, and your job vanished. So you moved back to Minneapolis or to Wisconsin.
I moved straight to Minneapolis. I'd never lived there before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait, you were in Wisconsin before you went to
Yeah.
Vegas?
I would drive 2.5 hours to do mics.
In Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
okay.
drive.
So yeah, when I was saying you were a Minneapolis open mic, you were actually living in Wisconsin. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now you decided to move to Minneapolis to be
To do-
relatively close to family and to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah, because I was just like, this is a thing I really like to do.
Okay. And you didn't do any stand-up comedy in Vegas?
No.
Okay. So you just missed it this whole time. Did you have feelings of missing it there?
A little bit, but I also was very content in the way that I was living.
Yeah,
where I
you were
was
like, I'm being happier and healthier than
Yeah.
when I was doing stand-up comedy and unhappy and unhealthy.
Right. So then I was like, I'm fine. I guess the resolve I hit was where I was like, you know what, I'm fine if I never do it again, but I do still enjoy it.
Okay. So you got up to Minneapolis. What was your? How'd you get there? What was the apartment that you got? Did you get a roommate?
I looked on Marketplace and I found a place. I got my tax return right around that time, and I had like $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this basement place, shitty like house with a Middle Eastern dude who owned it, and then a Liberian guy upstairs.
Okay. And
And
did you have a job?
no,
So no job. You had enough money for how many months rent?
one.
1 month's rent.
Yeah.
You get up there. What do you do?
I go back to this mic that I used to go to, and my buddy, I was just telling him that I moved back, and he was like, "Oh, I work at a group home. I can talk to them and get you in there."
Dude, that's awesome.
So
The stars aligned where you
Yeah.
get there immediately. Somebody's like, I have a group home job I can probably get you in at.
yeah,
And so how long until you get the job?
within 2 weeks.
Within 2
Yeah.
weeks. Okay. So you're just starting comedy basically again.
Yep.
How long until you got the group home job? Do you go back to drinking much at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're drinking a lot.
Way more than I ever was.
Way more than you ever
Yeah.
were. So you had this time of self betterment, and then you get back, and you're like, "Fuck it all."
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
It was like,
It was more fun than fuck all.
yeah, it started more fun because I would go to Mike's and then I would like go out and get drunk after because my group home job had like the perfect hours.
Mm-hmm.
It was 12 hours on Sunday from 9 to 9. I would get done with work, go to the bar next to my place, drink because I didn't have to work till 2 the next day. Then I had a day off in between, and I would drink, and then I would work again at 2 the following day. So I never really had to stop drinking.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you weren't even doing it like big weekend style. It was just weekday.
Weekday, going out to the bar, playing darts.
God, that's true. That's true Minnesota drinking right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just drinking. And were you doing hard alcohol? Or were you beer?
Gin and tonics and beer.
Gin and
Yeah.
tonics and beer. Okay, and then you are grinding stand up though, right? You're doing it drunk.
Yeah.
But that's the best.
I actually wasn't doing it drunk. I would wait till after. 'Cause
Okay.
I didn't want to be like a problem.
All right.
Uh,
So you're doing typical young guy drinking.
yeah. Going out after
Just
the
drinking
mics and
heavy,
drink.
but you're
Yeah.
not letting it ruin your life.
No, but it's
Yet, not yet.
Yeah.
All right.
As I progressed into it, because I just kind of thought that was like normal.
All right. And then how long until of comedy in Minneapolis till the first significant thing happened? When did you get your first host weekend?
It was the first significant thing was I was drinking for like a year and I bounced around. I lived in that shitty place. He sold the house, didn't tell me,
Mm-hmm.
so I had to move within like a day. And then I moved in with my buddy Ira and this lesbian couple, and they turned out to be really bad alcoholics. So I was drinking a bunch. Just
okay.
that house drank a lot.
Mhm.
And then I ended on really bad terms with them because they claimed that I didn't pay them utility money.
But did
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I was giving them cash from showcase gigs, and then they were just like, "You're not giving us our utility money." But I'm like, "I give you like $80."
Was this a
month."
misunderstanding or them trying to completely fuck you?
Definitely them trying to fuck me because they just made up a number, and then they claimed that my roommate Ira owed him like $1,200 of utilities payments, but for some reason I only owed him like $200.
Oh.
And I was just like, I'm like positive I paid you, and like he pays you. So they started.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they tried to fuck both you guys.
Yeah.
All right. So you get drunk with them. They're drunk alcoholics who are trying to make up a lie. That ends sour.
Yep. And I left again in a day.
You left again in a day. So how long were you there?
I was there for like 5 months.
5 months, and you're drinking up progressively worse there. That was where it really
Yeah.
ramped up.
Yep.
How's comedy going at that time?
Not bad. I'm doing like local showcases.
Local
and stuff
showcases, like
that.
in you're like 2 years into stand up.
Yeah. Well, no, this was in the same year I moved back.
Okay.
But total probably 2 years.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what is the next turning point? So you move out of that place. Where do you go?
I moved to my buddy Max's place, and while I'm at Max's, I'm still drinking that way, but no one in the house drinks that
Okay,
way.
so it's a little bit of a visible issue now.
Yeah.
All right. And but Max is a comic?
Yeah.
All right. So you are surrounded by stand-up comedy. You like have like a pursuit
Yep.
that you're on,
Yep.
and then you're working in the group home still.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do your roommates say something about your drinking or?
It happened. So I was at this like day facility for people with autism, and I was just getting done with work and drinking and hanging out, and I thought it was all chill. And then, but the thing is, when I drink, I lose a lot of weight really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I started losing weight in the winter because I was like, I couldn't really keep food down, and I was throwing up a bunch.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and then I had a Christmas party for this day facility, and it was like a lot of the parents were there, and this girl who had seen me perform at Acme at the mic was interested in me. I thought she was like out of my league.
Oh, okay.
So when we would hang out, I would get drunk as hell because I was like nervous. And I just like offhandedly invited her as my +1 to this Christmas party. She's like, "Yeah, I'm down."
Your work Christmas party,
Yeah.
girl that you're interested in.
And I go, and I mean, it's open bar. I get like trashed. I
Mhm.
blacked out at the Christmas party. And then the next thing I remember is waking up on her bathroom floor with her dog in there, and I was laying down like with my head on the door and my feet on the tub so no one could get into the bathroom. And I woke up and I was like, whoa. And there was puke in the toilet, and I checked my phone, and it was like 4:30 in the morning, and I was like, I gotta leave. So I just like got up and left, and then on my way home, like texted her. I was like, hey, sorry if I did anything. Like I didn't think I got that drunk last night. I'm sorry, but I tried to clean up the bathroom, and I get home, lay down, wake up to a text from her being like, hey, I think we just, we're in different places in life. And I was like, man. And I told my roommate, Max, I was like, man, I think I gotta, like, stop drinking. He's like, yeah, man, he's like, I've noticed it's been a thing.
Yeah, it's always. But did you ever have people tell you beforehand, like, bro, come on? Or did you make a lot? Were you a blackout drinker?
Not often, but sometimes, yeah. If people were, it would be a party setting, and I would get significantly drunker than the people.
Like,
at the
was it a
party.
known thing that Aiden's gonna get blackout and be a?
Among my friends?
Okay.
Like, oh, he gets really drunk.
Yeah, I just feel like I would like. It was almost every time I drank.
You were
But
blacking
like,
out.
yeah, I would just like I remember this one of it was Brouhaha, which all the comics got free
Yeah.
beer all day, and I blacked out. And I go up to my I go up to my like one of my closest friends who ran the whole festival, and he's at the after party, and he's standing there and he's just looking at all the people having a good time. He's just like so proud of himself for putting together this great festival.
Mhm.
And I go up to him and I just am like, you think you're so fucking special, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm that guy.
You
I
let
get,
the liquor talk.
Oh, I get so fucking like.
You get mean?
I get mean. So many like I've lost so many friends because I just am like, you know, you're not even fucking funny, right? Like, you know, everybody actually like makes fun of you when you're not around.
I think that's a nice thing to do, to let them know that.
You know, actually, I talk shit about you all the
Yeah.
time.
You know when you're not
Did that to
here.
one of my closest friends.
Really?
And I did it, and that's like a thing I'm trying to change because I was shit talking even not drunk, and it's like, why was I shit talking because I thought because I was giving an opinion or I was being an insecure little weasel. That's what I was really being. But the liquor lets me tell the truth.
Yeah.
And then the liquor also lets me make crazy rash decisions all the time.
Oh yeah.
But you just had the big that incident.
Yep.
And that turning point led you to do what?
Well, then that same week I had a doctor's appointment, and the doctor was like, your lab results are fucking like crazy.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, I think you should stop drinking. and we hadn't even really talked about how much I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so it is like affecting my body.
So what? Your liver was off?
My pancreas.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
So what changes did you make? Was it like a one day you just decided to make your bed, throw away all the booze?
I texted a buddy because my roommate Max's friend, also who later became a close friend of mine, he knew he went to AA, so he was like, I think you should talk to him and see about. He's like, he'll probably know of a meeting you could go to.
Okay.
So I did.
And by the way, where are you at in stand up at this point? Still just doing local showcases? Are
Yep.
you working any clubs yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, so you're just like a low level comic.
Yep.
And you decide to start going to AA.
Yep.
And then your friend Max and your good friend that later introduced you went to AA.
Yeah.
All right, next.
And so then I go to that meeting, and the old guy says, he was like, you can go out after this meeting and get as drunk as you want. And he's like, but I promise you, after hearing the things that we say, you're never going to think, or I can't remember what it was. It was like, you're never going to drink the same way. He's like, basically, like, you're always going to remember this.
Okay.
And I kind of took it as a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I had another show that weekend that was like in a small town, and I went and had a couple, but then I was like, fuck, that old guy was right. Some of those stories were pretty crazy. So then I just stopped after that. And within a month of stopping, I got hired at Acme. And then from that, it rolled over to then working the House of Comedy in the mall.
Uh-huh.
So then it all just snowballed after that.
And everything just started to click after you started making better decisions for yourself.
And taking care of myself and going back to the gym and shit like that. So.
Okay. And so you're working at the group home still.
Yep.
Everything's going well. You quit drinking. You're going to AA. You're going to meetings.
Yep.
You're working the steps.
Yeah, I had a sponsor. We were going through the steps and stuff like that.
All right. And so now this era, you're living with your buddy Max.
Yep.
What's the next significant thing that happens? Because stand up keeps going well. You're working locally. Then what's your next life?
Then I was like, I kind of hit the point where because I wasn't drinking, I would just go home every night.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wasn't dating anybody, so my life was kind of like boring.
Okay.
And then I ended up meeting a comic, and we started dating for like a little while. But in that process, I was like, I still need like a level of like fulfillment of like I'm striving towards more.
So what did you decide? Was it a romance?
So I started taking these gigs from this horrible booker. But he was routing me to do like full 40-minute sets that I was not ready for.
Yeah, is this the Bird Company?
Ron Air and Entertainment. And so I started taking a bunch of those and doing those gigs and like trying to get better in that regard because I was like, I want to do.
And so you're going to like VFW type gigs, and you're being around some blackout drunk people in small towns. You're not drinking. You're doing 40 minutes in front of these people, and you're liking it.
Oh no! I mean, it's not good, but I'm like, I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, you feel
now.
like you're doing the thing that you heard about on podcasts or whatever.
Exactly.
That you're doing the road.
Yeah. And
okay.
So I left my job, and then I got a more flexible job doing like construction and carpentry. And he was like, "When you need off, just let me know.
That's
but work when you want."
That's ideal.
And so I was mostly working there. I was doing like full weeks of work with him. But then when these shitty road dates would pop up, I would take off and then go to like Kansas or Ohio or the Pacific North. You know what I mean? I would just kind of bounce.
You would drive anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drive or take a train anywhere to do these gigs. And then I'm working at Acme still as a host, but things are going well. Like that that lady I was dating, it did not end very well. And that was almost like another. It was weird because I was like, oh, I faced another breakup sober, but I feel like I learned a lot more about myself and what I do in relationships through that.
Okay, like because you were more present and aware, maybe,
Yeah.
and you were trying to actually like learn, whereas before
Yeah.
you were just acting. But then when you're like trying to improve as a person, when you go through life, you're like, oh shoot, I should stop doing that.
Right.
Whereas before you would just do it and be like, that's what I do.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was like after that, it was almost another eye-opening. Like, oh, there's a journey of like figuring myself out still that's continuing forward.
Okay, so you don't drink still. You are. Do you what? At what point do you stop going to AA?
As soon as things started getting, I went for pretty solidly like year and a half, 2 years.
A year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, but then as soon as things started picking up more, it became less of a priority because I was like, I think I can do the sobriety on myself. It just, the steps really help with the finding like the inner peace.
Yeah.
And like forgiving yourself after drinking,
Mm-hmm.
and like just offering yourself up to like,
Well, because isn't it like drinking's not a problem? It's a symptom.
exactly,
Yeah.
of this greater problem. And it's crazy when they were talking about like the things in the book, and like it was just speaking vaguely about like personalities, and it
Mhm.
was like, oh, I do that. It was always like you're trying to be a director in your movie, and if only people would just do these exact things, it would go right. But every time we try and orchestrate these events, it becomes like a disaster. And it was more about like releasing yourself and being like, the only person I can control is me.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was a lot of fulfillment that came with that.
Okay. So you're content with yourself, but you still feel this drive to be working on stand up.
Mm-hmm.
The how is stand up going throughout the relationship?
The relationship is going poorly, but the stand up is going well.
Okay, so then the relationship ends. You respond to it way better than you had responded to any big stressors like that in the past.
We were in like a really cyclical on and off again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, she wanted me to go to therapy, so I agreed to go. And then in therapy, the therapist was like, this is why you keep going back. This is a script. You're fulfilling this X, Y, and Z in this. And it's like, if you could just take a step outside of yourself and put a stop to this, you'd be a lot happier.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh. Because I think she thought I needed to go to therapy
To fix you.
I was fucked up.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's just this relationship.
And yeah, it doesn't even mean like, because there's no such thing of there's either like good or bad or like
No.
Problems aren't just like something needs to change. It's like a situation can be a problem, and even though A and B can both be problems, like
Exactly.
it doesn't mean when A and B both get fixed that the situation is then
It's
resolved.
better, yeah. It
Yeah.
just becomes a snake eating its tail.
Okay, so you actually, but you did learn a lot in therapy.
Yeah, I learned. I was like, oh, okay. And then she wanted to get back together again. And I had always been like, it would come with all of these promises of being like, it's going to be better, it's going to be better. And then it would go right back to what it was before. And so then she wanted to talk, and I went over there, and she wanted to like start the relationship again. And I was just like, I just kind of held firm, and I was just kind of like, no. And I do think doing that, we're both just happier now, because it was like that, like you said, it was just a bad situation, and it's like there is no like ill will there. It's just like, I think we need to walk away because this situation is not working.
So you were able to prevent yourself from making an unhealthy decision.
Yeah.
Which would have been easier to make almost, to just be like, sure.
Yeah, and then just keep
and then let the
repeating
cycle continue.
this cycle.
But instead you made the healthier decision, which took knowledge to make.
Yeah.
And so in stand-up's going well at this point.
Mhm.
You have your group home job.
Yep.
You're still living with Max?
No, I'm doing this right around that time when I finally called it quits, because we were together probably like year and a half.
Mhm.
Very on and off though.
Very on and off.
I wasn't at the group home. I was doing after that.
Oh wait, that was construction and carpentry.
Yeah.
Yeah, construction and carpentry was there.
I left
was
that entirely after I started working more consistently on the road, and then started doing the car thing. that you
Okay,
were
so you lived in your car in Minneapolis when you were dating?
Was sort of teetering the line where I would I still had my place at Max's, and then he finally was like, "You got to." My girlfriend's moving in, so we want to have our place to ourselves.
Uh-huh.
So we moved out, and then I was like, I'm gonna do the car thing. I
You're gonna
already
do the
built
car
the
thing.
bed.
And you already had the bed in the car, and
Mhm.
you were in the relationship when you decided to do the car thing?
I think it was in an off period, but
But
we
towards
were
the
still-
end?
Yeah, it was towards the end.
Okay. And then how long did you do the car thing?
I did that for close to a year.
Okay, close
Yeah.
to a year in the car. So were you mostly staying in Minneapolis, though, when you did it?
The Midwest.
The Midwest.
Yeah, so Minnesota, Wisconsin, some of the Dakotas. I would be
Okay.
out there. Otherwise, I would take it to other scenes, but usually if you took it to another scene and I wasn't there for that long, you could find a couch. So I would stay. I would couch surf.
You would
a
couch.
lot.
So how long are you staying in one area? You really just going different city every week?
I'm going a lot of different places.
Okay, because the thing that we were talking about, because I'm doing the car thing of the downtime
Yes.
was really difficult for you. So where would you go during the downtime most of the time during the week when you didn't have gigs on the weekends?
It would usually be I would go to Planet Fitness for quite a while,
And
it
just
wouldn't
sit
even.
and smoke weed in your car?
Yeah, either that or lightly work out for a couple hours,
Mhm.
and then sit in that black card area.
But
on
you
my
never
phone.
went back to drinking?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No.
And so you're doing that, and then what gigs are you doing? Is this still mostly Ron Heron gigs, or are you starting to get opening gigs for people?
Yeah, that was around the time.
So what was your first gig that wasn't Acme or Ron Heron that somebody was come open for me?
Mullen came through Minneapolis, and this was prior to the car, and he asked me to open for him in San Francisco, and then I was like, that validation, I was like, oh, I can do
You can
this
do this.
now.
Yeah, that's really truly all it
Yeah,
takes.
and that was right around when I started tapering off, doing my job
Mm-hmm.
and trying to cut my hours and see what is livable.
Okay.
For me.
So you did all the calculations in your head at this time. You're like, I could actually do it if I just keep stringing along enough gigs
Yeah.
and just decide to not have any rent.
Right.
All right. So you go in the car. So when was the Nick thing? How long into stand up?
That was 2022
2022, and then you
Yeah.
decide to do car when?
in spring of 2023.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you start thinking about it, you finally do it, and then what gigs are mostly keeping you afloat? Is it
Those ones.
the opening?
Yeah, doing gigs
So
opening.
how
and
often are you opening for people? Because who were you opening for besides Mullen in the Midwest?
I had opened for Sass, Lil Sass from Barstool,
Mhm.
Harry, and then he helped me. He would do I worked with him in Chicago and in Detroit, and then Mullen would have me do random dates here or there. There's a period where it was once a month or every other month,
Mm-hmm.
and then I could always bank on this is enough money for me to keep going, and then I just have to I need to make more.
Yeah, you need to
along
do.
with this.
That's I'm kind of currently doing that with just all the host weekends at
Yeah.
clubs where I'm just I'll make $200 for the week, and
Mhm.
it makes me break even, and then I'll try to get the big ones once a month.
Right.
Okay.
And try and center something around that. But it was just really taking every opportunity.
But how's life feeling at this point? Because you're doing the car, you don't really have a home base. You're on the road constantly.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you're making the same progress on yourself, or do but do you have enough alone time that you do feel that you are?
Yeah, I think it was the enough alone time because truly really felt free after I put an end to that relationship.
Yeah, that was a little bit toxic to your
Yeah, and it was
health.
just like a really freeing, and I just really appreciated like being alone for the first time in like a while, and like there was just little moments of downtime where like I would like be coming out of a Planet Fitness and it's like 3 in the afternoon, and I would just kind of like I'd be like, this is really peaceful. Like it is just me
Mm-hmm.
out here, and I have the freedom to do whatever right now. It was
Yeah.
just like that. I felt really free.
That's how I feel right now. Like I was like getting really gay, but I was hiking in Zion and I was just like on Angel's Landing, like 2,000 feet up in the air, looking over the cliff. And I was just like, man, I'm freaking hiking this.
Yeah.
And then I'm about to fly out to the Pacific Northwest. I'm about to open for two of my favorite comedians back to back.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, this is the life that I live right now. And I get to just choose whatever I want to do during the day.
Yeah.
Every day I just get to like whatever I want. No.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a very, just being present and thinking about that feeling makes you feel a lot of dopamine.
Yeah. It
So
feels
I
really
can
good.
really relate to that making you feel good as a person.
Mm-hmm. You feel really like just the freedom. It like when it hits you, it releases a lot of dopamine, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so then you told me during your car period, the winter months are tough.
Yeah.
It's too cold, so you had to find a place, and you found Mullet Girl at one point.
I was at the tail end of the summer. I was on and off. This girl happened to like be kind of doing the nomadic thing. But
Yeah,
from,
where'd you
like,
guys
way north?
bump tails?
She DM'd me because of my Shutter Island joke.
Ah,
And then was like, "Would you want to get coffee?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And then that developed into like just kind of like when I had downtime being in like northern Minnesota.
okay, and it's like an
like,
on-off, more like not friends with benefits, but we're romantic partners when we're together.
It wasn't even really that. It was like pretty platonic. I think we only hooked up like once, but otherwise it was just kind of like
Oh, what?
chilling with a person. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. We spent time together. We hooked up one time, and then but most of the time it was just like chilling.
All right.
Yeah. And it was very like nice, like hanging out with a
Okay.
friend who also doesn't have the same obligation.
So she was doing the nomadic thing a little bit too, and you
Yeah.
guys had this, and it was a place to go in the winter, and she was a good friend.
This was in the summer, but then,
Summer? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And then I started getting busier,
Mhm.
and then we just kind of stopped. I think she may have thought it was. I don't know if she wanted more out of me, but I was just like, I can't. I'm
Okay.
really fully committed to the stand-up stuff,
Uh-huh.
and then it just sort of tapered off,
All right.
and then I was alone again. But then I met a while after that. I ended up meeting my current girlfriend, and we had been friends.
Because you were both comedians.
Yeah,
All right.
we had been friends, and then we did a gig together, and got along a lot better than we thought we would.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like we would always been friends, but we'd never spent like just chilling together. And I was like, oh, she's really cool. We're getting along. And then I just happened to be like, she was like, are you still doing the car thing? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, you can always stay on my couch. She's like, no one uses it.
That's
So,
nice.
Yeah. So for like the fall months, I would just, when I was in Minneapolis, I would just stay on her couch and we would hang out and talk. And then she invited me into her bedroom, and I I wasn't sure because I was like, I just don't know how nice she's
Mhm.
being, and we are friends.
That's so. I can relate to this
Yeah.
feeling where I've had this with a friend that I ended up hooking up with, where I literally
Yeah.
missed so many obvious
Obvious
signals because
signs,
I was
yeah.
like, I can't fuck up this friendship.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to, like, you're so cool, I don't want to ruin this.
Yes.
And then I was like, I'm gonna do it like the old-fashioned way, and just be like, "Hey, I like you," which I had never said to anybody like since middle school. And then I said to her before I was like about to go on the road again, I was like, "Hey, I like you," and she was like, "Yeah, I like you too," and I was like, "Cool." Like, what do we do now?
And it felt like middle school?
Yeah, it
That's so
did.
cute. That's fun.
And then from there, we started. She came down and visited me in my hometown, and then we started dating after that.
Oh, that's fun. And
Yeah.
so you guys were instant romance, in love.
Yeah.
And stand up is still linearly going up for you.
Yep.
And then you're still improving on your life. You're happy.
Mm-hmm.
You're living in the moment. And that was when what was the date when you guys met?
That was
Or not met, but like started dating.
started dating November 6th of 2023 because we're coming on 2 years.
Okay. And so these past 2 years, what have been the most significant things that have happened for you?
Career-wise, I've just kept like opening for people and stuff.
Kept opening
and
for people.
trying to get like more ahead, but then other like bigger life things, like we moved in together.
Mhm. How long until you? I guess you were staying
Yeah.
on her couch.
Yep.
So what was the like?
Then what happened was her roommate didn't want to re-sign the lease and she wanted to live alone. So then she moved into another comic friend's, and then I was still kind of like staying with her when I was around. And then I started renting my buddy's like broom closet because I was like, I don't want to be a bum and like just, I don't want her to think that I'm only
With her to mooch off her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got my own little place for what I could afford. She would come over there and sleep over, and it started to feel like more of a normal
Yeah.
relationship.
And then you decided to move in.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like what do you feel like in that time of it's a great relationship where you moved in together 2 years, what do you feel that you're still struggling with the most that you like kind of want to fix that you like haven't been able to address yet?
I think it was just kind of what we talked about last night.
Yeah,
where
a
it
lot
was
of
like
anger stuff.
Yeah, getting upset or like feeling the anger and not being like a third party to the feeling, like you said. I want to be more
In control.
mindful and in control. Of
Yeah.
that.
And I think I don't know. That's like something I'm really practicing on. Maybe not anger as much, but like I like anxiety, like freaking out and kind of like fearing if people hate me and stuff like that all the time. I let myself spin out with. But yeah, I think I don't know. Both of us just kind of it takes recognizing your thoughts and emotions and identifying them. But yeah, where do you feel that you're at with it? You still
the thing is, it's like it's not like the traditional sense of like angry.
Yeah, because you never like you're not a guy who's like gonna punch a wall or something.
No,
ever,
I don't
right?
even really yell at all.
But
I just get like
you let it kind of over.
Yeah, it's like an
Your
internal
whole
feeling. Yeah,
like your whole being becomes enraged, and you can't have a separate feeling than the anger.
Yeah, but I think the root cause of it is a lot. Like I just feel like I'm under a lot of stress a lot of the time, which I would like to free myself of. But like I think the stress is like a baseline, but then something that teeters along that, where if it's like an inconvenience or like and then it in my mind becomes a catastrophe and it frustrates me because I already feel this level of stress that like once I hit this point, then I'm like, this is just
the world's
another
ending.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the world's ending, but the being able to take a step back and realize that it's not.
Yeah,
is just it takes another level of maturity and patience, and that's stuff that I think is all learned.
Yes.
Some people maybe have it quite naturally, but I think that's why maybe, I don't know, we don't see it too much in the world today, but I feel like normally older people are supposed to be wiser, calmer, and have it all figured out because they've learned the practices that you do when you feel those things.
Right. And like you do the work on yourself, which is what I would like to do. Be more mindful at least.
And what are you doing at this point in life?
As far as trying to figure that out or just in general.
Yeah, taking steps towards that.
Just more or less just like I guess, taken on an attitude of like, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, it only happened. I wish I could get this feeling while I'm also in the moment with another person, but just like I usually have it when I'm driving or when I'm alone, where I go, you know what, shit's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have this. You take the inventory of what you do have. And
Yeah.
you're like, you know
And
what,
that's-
it's really not bad.
That's
and
why like meditating and stuff is so helpful for that, because like, you know, it's easy to do it when it's silent and you're on the road alone, but to be able to do it in the noise and when life is hard, to
Yeah.
be able to still, actually, it isn't that bad. That's
Yeah.
the skill that's practiced, and I think that's what helps with being able to calm your fears
Yeah.
or anger.
I think so too. I
So
think
that's what I'm trying to get better at.
Same. Yeah, same, dude.
But where are we? Oh wow, we're over an hour. This is the
Oh,
longest one
shit.
I've done.
Damn, that was a good talk.
Well, I think we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I think we got. I got a good amount of your story, right?
Yeah.
Would you say I covered it?
Yeah, I would say so.
This is probably the best I've done interviewing wise, by the way.
That was good. Dude.
I thought about it the
flowed
whole
well.
time. I was like, I think we went chronological, and I think I got to the nitty gritty of a lot of
Yeah.
it. And then I think I liked how I did at the end there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of my episode.
Yeah.
Normally, I've really shit the bed on a lot of these, so
We almost just said fuck it and didn't do it. So,
yeah. So I'm stoked because this is exactly what I wanted the episode to be.
perfect.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Hopefully you guys learned. Oh, my hair looks like dog shit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
And we got to the bottom of it. This has been I Don't Want to Be a Piece of Shit. I've been Carter Doherty.
Aidan McCluskey, thanks, man.
Follow him on everything. Peace.
Feel the boom in the room, yeah. I feel it right now. Heavy and lying in my soul, yeah.